Previously, Kasabin suddenly spoke. Do you need a bedroom slave? If you need one, use me then. Even though you might see me as a dirty man, I am sure of my success. Arlenne was so shocked. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? No, I'm completely sane now, so please don't keep others around. Now, Arlenne asked, if I kiss you now, will I also become a dirty person? Without waiting for his answer, Arlenne kissed him on the forehead. He replied softly, Sister, if you are dirty, then there is no one clean in this world. I'm returning this statement to you, Kasabin. Don't degrade yourself because you are nobler than anyone else, Arlenne said firmly. At this moment, Arlenne decided to obey the prophecy. She would become Kasabin's sanctuary, an injured eagle who didn't want him to lick his festering wounds alone. He leaned gently against her knee, murmuring softly. His voice was different this time, with a slight tremble. When I say I dislike you, I'm lying. Since the first time we met until now, I have never disliked you. Quite the opposite. He lowered his head, kissing the back of Arlenne's hand. But he didn't continue speaking, and Arlenne didn't press further. She didn't want to impose Damian's actions on Kasabin, and to continue her plan, she needed to take action. Damian had arrived, and she stood up to greet him. I've been waiting for you. The person who arrived was her former fiancé from a past life, and also her enemy. Arlenne spoke first. You haven't been in contact with me, and I was worried if something was wrong with your health. He replied, How could that be? I've been busy with the lawsuit. Arlenne took the initiative to hold his hand. I didn't mean any harm. It's just good to see you again, Your Grace. Her touch was not just about closeness, but also to assess Damian's physical condition. Indeed, his heart condition was severe. At this time in her past life, she had already been treating him. Emotional fluctuations were one of the reasons for his illness. Thinking about inviting Damian to the prince's banquet, she said, I plan to hand over the slave at the banquet and help you contact him. Damian readily accepted. We'll meet again soon. After the girl left, Damian's steward appeared with some documents. Damian sneered as he looked at them. It was Kasabin's slave trading agreement. He mocked, What a ridiculous brother and sister. When Arlenne returned home, Toll had changed into new clothes. The sincere man once again expressed his gratitude, but Arlenne had something to ask of him. I hope you can accompany me to the royal banquet. You'll encounter those who persecuted you. Do you mind? Toll replied, Of course not. I really want to repay you. As soon as they parted, Arlenne encountered Kasabin waiting at the door. He asked, Are you going to the palace banquet? I hope you can take me with you. Arlenne firmly said, No, you know why. Kasabin assured her, I won't cause any trouble. I'll be as quiet as a log. Please take me with you. Arlenne didn't want to take him because he still thought the crown prince was his enemy. She wanted to trust Kasabin, but reality didn't allow it. If I take you, will you tell me your secret? I'm not forcing you, but if you don't want to tell me, you can't come with me. She understood Kasabin's inability to confess his past, but the choice was entirely his. The next day, Arlenne boarded the carriage. Just before leaving, Kasabin appeared. It seemed he was finally willing to face the past. This banquet had invited almost all the nobles of the empire. Damian appeared, saying, Miss Serica, even from afar, I only see you in the crowd. Could you grant me the honor of accompanying you all day? She had just agreed when Kasabin reached out and grabbed her hand, saying, Sister, didn't we agree that I would accompany you today? Damian instantly recognized him and said, I met him at the birthday banquet. Arlenne was about to go crazy because of Kasabin. She warned with her lips, Didn't you say you would be as quiet as a log? The shameless man continued acting. Didn't you forget our agreement? Damian interrupted, He's your brother, right? Looks like you remember me. Damian continued, After all, you have unforgettable purple eyes. This is the third time. We always meet as a trio. It turned out Damian had recognized Kasabin in prison, making him an annoying person. Arlenne naturally denied it, saying, Today is only our second meeting. Damian didn't dwell on the topic. He turned to Kasabin and said, Your sister has agreed to accompany me today. Let me accompany her. Kasabin once again stood in front of Arlenne and said with a smile, Unless my sister rejects me, I won't let go of her hand. Is that so? Damian held Arlenne's hand and whispered in her ear. You must be in a difficult position, miss. A mere slave dares to be so presumptuous. Damian exposed Kasabin's slave identity, causing Arlenne to break ties with him. The girl forcefully pushed him away and said seriously, Your Grace, are you humiliating my brother? Damian was surprised. He didn't expect her to defend a slave. Suddenly, a voice came in announcing the arrival of the crown prince. He immediately spotted Arlenne and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to come. Arlenne replied, How could I refuse your invitation? Damian interjected, Your Highness, it's fortunate to see you safe and sound. The crown prince's expression turned disdainful as he said, I don't recall inviting you. Damian, displeased, said, Treating me unfairly like this, how can I endure it? The crown prince sternly replied, The moment you sued the royal family, you lost my trust. Kasabin didn't want Arlenne to be involved in the conflict and advised, Your Highness, there are many people here. However, the crown prince pointed at him and said, Today's unexpected guests are quite numerous. With an innocent expression, Arlenne said, Your Highness, he is my brother. The crown prince said, I will overlook him this time. But why is your brother holding your hand? Kasabin explained, Because we agreed beforehand that I would accompany my sister today. The crown prince found it strange. I found it strange last time too. Aren't you siblings? But the way you looking at Arlenne doesn't seem like a brotherly gaze, more like… Arlenne quickly interrupted him, saying, Your Highness, would you like to dance with me? The entire hall fell silent. The crown prince chuckled and said, You always surprise me. Your behavior is completely abnormal. Arlenne rolled her eyes. She couldn't believe she was being called abnormal by this nonsensical person. He continued, But usually, it's the gentlemen who invite to dance. So, Arlenne, would you like to dance with me? She was about to agree when Kasabin intervened again. Arlenne whispered to him not to worry, but his eyes looked disappointed. The crown prince took her hand and turned to Damian, saying coldly, Before dancing, I hope the unexpected guest will leave. I'm sorry, I have an appointment with Miss Serica, Damian replied. Don't you have something to show to His Highness? This was exactly what Arlenne was waiting for. She called for toll, and the man stepped forward. The crown prince looked puzzled. Arlenne began to introduce, He is a slave, a gift from Duke Damian for your Highness's birthday banquet. Before explaining everything to you, I hope you can guarantee my safety. I'm afraid Duke Damian will hurt me after I reveal the truth. Damian, shocked, said, Wait, why do you think I would harm you? This is a false accusation. The crown prince stopped Damian, waving his hand impatiently. I didn't ask you, so keep quiet. After a moment's thought, he added, But then again, with your sword skills dominating the country, you could easily eliminate others. Damian, furious, said, Not only did you falsely imprison me, but now you're also insulting me in public. The crown prince shrugged indifferently. It's your fault for not being cautious with your words and actions. Otherwise, why would she ask me to protect her? Arlenne had considered that the crown prince might vent his anger on Damian, but she didn't expect him to push Damian to this extent. She wouldn't be satisfied with just this. After all, revenge had only just begun. She spoke up, Your Highness, because of my admiration for Duke Damian, I visited him in prison. But he wanted to use our friendship to ask me to send this slave to you to help him escape punishment. Damian roared, Don't use lies to confuse His Highness. However, the crown prince intervened to stop him and asked, Duke Damian was acquitted, but didn't show gratitude by suing the royal family. Now, why are you using our friendship again? Arlenne hinted that Damian was in a high position but still unsatisfied with what he had and wanted more. Damian, furious, was blocked by Kasabin, who said, Please don't get close to my sister anymore. Angered, Damian grabbed Kasabin's collar and shouted, You're just a slave used to crawling in the gladiatorial arena? Whispering and murmurs spread among the crowd, and all eyes turned to Kasabin. Kasabin paused for a moment, then calmly pushed Damian's hand away and said, You seem to think highly of yourself. We've only met twice, and you act like you know me so well? He took a step forward, mocking, You walk into a royal banquet as a suspect of poisoning with such grandeur. If it were me, I would never do such a thing." Damian became even more furious, and the next moment, his heart condition suddenly flared up. Amidst the crowd's astonishment, he collapsed to the ground. Arlenne couldn't contain her joy at seeing this scene unfold. Arlenne quickly stepped forward, pretending to be concerned, and exclaimed, "Oh my, Duke Damian, your face has turned pale. Could it be a problem with your heart?" Damian was in so much pain at this moment that he couldn't speak. People around started whispering about heart issues they overheard. The prince also curiously asked, "Is Duke Damian having heart problems?" Arlenne explained that Damian was clutching his chest area and suggested calling a doctor. Damian managed to squeeze out a sentence, "Don't call a doctor, call my steward Kendall." Arlenne asked Toll to come over and help Damian. Toll approached quietly and said, "I heard you were my former master." Damian, shocked, looked up and said, "Your tongue was clearly." Before he could finish, the intense pain in his heart hit again, and he passed out. After this, Arlenne stood alone in the royal garden, with the prince appearing behind her. Arlenne got straight to the point and asked, "Why did you want to meet me alone?" The prince smiled slightly but didn't answer her question, saying, "So direct? Rather than discussing serious matters, I would prefer you to enjoy the beauty of this place. Those outside the royal family are not allowed in this rose garden." Arlenne didn't want to waste time with him here and made an excuse that her brother was waiting for her. The prince frowned at the mention of her brother and said, "Enough about your strange brother for now." Then he approached her and said solemnly, "Do you know that today's banquet is specially arranged for you?" Arlenne was taken aback. "What? You just said my brother was strange." The prince couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you focusing on that?" She replied, "Do you know how surprised I was when you said my brother looked at me strangely?" He didn't understand. "I just stated a fact. Why are you surprised?" Then, he started talking about Damian. His steward was extremely loyal and had been hiding Damian's heart condition. But the prince didn't understand. If there's an illness, why hide it? And how could you give a slave as a gift to someone? Arlenne thought, that's a normal reaction. She suddenly thought of Toll. If she gave Toll to the prince, he wouldn't treat him well because he was Damian's gift. So she mentioned that she wanted Toll to stay in her mansion, and the prince didn't care, leaving her to handle it herself. Suddenly, a voice interrupted them. Kasabin appeared and said, "So you're here." The prince said, "You can't just barge in. Only those related to the royal family can enter and exit this garden." Kasabin explained, "I'm just here to find my sister. She's been gone for a while, and I'm worried." He walked up, naturally took her hand and said, "It's late. Let's go back." The prince frowned. "You really love your sister." Kasabin didn't respond to that, but he continued, "Even if she becomes someone else's wife, will you still be like this?" Hearing this, Kasabin's shoulders trembled slightly. He turned slightly, his eyes showing something indiscernible, and said firmly, "That day will never come."